How did we get here? And even worse, is it worth it?
Ari, I am so excited to be talking to you about this movie. It is, I think, a masterpiece. I think people are going to say that. I don't know. The recognition of it may come soon. It may come over time, but I'm curious where you started in weaving this tapestry that kind of shows us how we got where we are in American culture in like crazy, wild, hilarious, and dark way. Like, what was the seed? What were the first threads as you put it together?
Well, what was the seed? I mean, this is sort of the movie that Twitter wrote. You know, it was 2020. I was living in New Mexico, which is where I'm from. I was living near family, and I was on Twitter. I wasn't posting, but I was scrolling, and I was going crazy. And in late May, early June 2020, there was something in the air that felt distinct to me. It felt familiar, but it was worse. And it felt like things had come to a boiling point, and I didn't know what was going to happen, but it felt like we were on the cusp of something potentially disastrous. I don't know. And so I just felt like I want to uh I want to I want to make a movie about this, about what this moment feels like right now. I don't know where we're going, but if I root it right now, right here, this week, um, then I have a ground to stand on, and
Interesting.
I know what it's about. Um, and so that's where it began.
It felt to me like Joe Cross, in the end, is a really powerful metaphor for something American that has gone through something and changed and been left in a quite a state by the end. And I asked Joaquin about it, and he said, I can't approach it that way, but I appreciate it. Like I approach it like, who is this person and how do I know him? And I'm curious if for you, the journey Joe goes on, because in some ways he could be a lightning rod for hate. He could be othered. He could be, but there's humanity and compassion, and his journey does reflect kind of like a nightmare scenario that a regular person might go through. And I'm curious if metaphor and these layers are part of your process, or if you try to, like Joaquin said, you try to just stay like, what is this human being experiencing?
Yes, I was thinking about him in both ways. I wanted him to be like a vivid, real person, and I wanted him to, be somebody who had, strongly held beliefs, who, he loves his wife. He cares about his community. He cares about what's right,
Yeah.
all these things. And of course, he's in his particular silo, and he's receiving, the information he's receiving. Um, and then at the same time, he is representative of like this kind of libertarian shift in American politics, where like, yeah, he's conservative, but he's not what conservatism used to be.
Hmm.
And in a lot of ways, in a lot of ways, conservative, uh, the right wing, has, kind of adopted the language of 1960s like liberal activism. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like it's gotten so fucking distorted. And so um
It's
so yeah,
amazing you said that because Deirdre told me that the only way she could connect to the conspiracy theorist stuff that her character loved was by revisiting 60s stuff that she lived through, that she believed and was true, that was conspiracy theory-esque. And I thought that was a brilliant part of the process, but also like there's something in what you're saying, and I don't know where the connection was, but I find that fascinating that you immediately draw to that time.
well, for me, in what's important here in how I was approaching all of these characters is these are all people who care about the world, and they all can feel that something is very, very wrong. But they're all living in different realities. They're all fortressed off from each other. and they all have very different ideas about what those things are that are wrong,
And they can't
what the
connect.
sources are, what the
Yeah.
sources are. And no, they can't connect, they can't reach each other. And I don't think that's the innocent consequence of social media. You know, I think it's I think social media is a tool and it's been harnessed. And I think in a lot of ways, uh, we're being, we've been distracted by, these like ideological battles, uh, while big power operates above us and is changing us and is changing the world. And, I mean, yeah,
It's
yeah.
part of why the movie lands in such a devastatingly honest place. There's a level of puppeteering and then a puppeteering of puppeteers that feels so painful, and yet you've put it to life dramatically in a way that's like funny and like human and like I kind of marvel at the capacity to hold all these ideas, very intellectual stuff, but then just make it like a drama that works with jokes. Like the jokes play so well. There's like a Chuck Jones element at times to this movie. Like I don't like. There's just so much you packed in there, and I like. Yeah, it feels like we've lost critical thinking. Right? We are victims of some kind of weird social media. Like talk. Here's something I want to hear you talk a little bit about. There's a father who we never see, like a patriarchal figure, a sheriff who's got a shrine, and he carries a secret. And he feels also like a very loaded symbol to me. And I'm curious to hear you talk about him. We only see an image, but he presides over this.
Well, you're the first person who's asked me about this, and so I'm not used to talking about it, but uh, you're right. That's a very like he's very important, and you're talking about Louise's father,
Yes.
and Louise is the character played by Emma Stone, who was Joaquin Phoenix's character, Joe Cross. Um, this man was his mentor.
And
So
father-in-law.
and father-in-law, and
Right.
when that man was sheriff, Joe Cross was a deputy under him. It gets pretty convoluted from here, so it's I don't know how much I should go into this, but basically, um, Louise has a history with her father that's pretty ugly.
Hmm.
Neither her mother nor her husband want to look at. And
Hmm.
the result of that is that they've created a scapegoat in Pedro Pascal's character, Ted. Um, I'm giving away more than I even want to.
Okay, we
I'll
can
leave it
stop
there.
it there, but I
I'll leave
would
it
just
there.
say that there's something also about the fact that you're from this area, right? I love Westerns. There's a lot of Western mythology in here, and of course in anything that's really about America, but this man's a sheriff, right, in the West, Joe Cross, and this man who presides over them was a sheriff of the West. And that feels so important as a symbol to also understanding,
Right.
where we are and why we're here.
That's, that's right. And I think, and this is also a film that is kind of populated by characters who are media literate, to an extent. In some ways, they don't actually know what media is doing to them.
Right.
But Joe is somebody who would have seen all those westerns and he would have loved them, and
Mm.
that informs him
Yeah.
and his stance and the way he carries himself and the way he sees himself. He's he's somebody who cares about his community. He's a man of action. He stands for what's right. He loves his wife, you know, and
And
he's a very sentimental man, which means he's not really looking at his own life, right? And then
mm,
of course he's somebody, he's 50 years old. He would have loved the action movies of the 80s and the 90s, and at the end he gets to live through one of those too.
he does. In some ways, he thinks, especially that market scene, he's like Gary Cooper or something, or one of those guys, or Henry Fonda. He's like, I'm a good, regular, upstanding. Let's just be good Americans right now. Let's be good neighbors. And it's like you found a way through those symbols to help us to understand the perspectives And that's something lost in our actual day to day. But to help us see, like, maybe the person who's putting the most woke stuff on social media has weird intentions. Maybe the person who's standing more conservatively has good ones. Maybe we're all just confused and lost and not hearing each other. Like it's just, but all that is so it's so well realized. And
Thank-
I would love to hear you talk about the collaboration with Joaquin on that. Like he is such a master, and you take him places, and you guys are having fun. It's so clear through this darkness. Like, what is your process like together?
Well, Joaquin's an incredible actor, obviously. And he's somebody who really loves to talk through things and wants to read over the script together. And he asks a lot of questions. And it it I learned at some point on Beau is Afraid that the point of these questions is not to come up with an answer so that you show up on set with the answer.
Hmm.
Find the questions that activate something deeper and to keep those questions alive and to not have them be answered in some pat, simple way. Because, if he shows up on a set and he knows exactly what the plan is, he's going to clam up. Uh,
Hmm.
because it's going to feel dead to him. It's going to feel like acting. And he's
Yeah.
somebody who kind of lives in horror of acting. The idea of acting to him is like disgusting. And
Interesting.
so he won't do it. Uh,
He won't act. He'll never act. He's
not
living
not
it.
not in the sense that I mean, you know what I
Yeah, yeah,
mean?
yeah. I know.
And so, it's I love the process of working with him because I find that it also keeps me on my toes and keeps, material that I've been living with forever from becoming, just kind of dead on the page or just like this is the plan, this is what we're gonna do. And we can sleepwalk through our day and make sure we're hitting the right marks and
Right.
okay. So it brings it back to life. It electrifies what we're doing.
It's a live wire the whole time. There's a small town, like it's a small town movies come to mind, West Texas, things like that. I was thinking like Larry McMurtry, kind of nightmare Larry McMurtry in a way at times, and I wonder if you were thinking consciously about trying to depict some of that idea and some of that as this town goes off the rails.
Well, I love Larry McMurtry. I actually did show the crew the last picture show before making the film. I only was able to show them two films because we didn't have time to keep going. It was that and Nashville, but I would have shown them more films just to get them into the spirit of
Are there
things.
a few? But Last Picture Show might be one of my favorite movies ever, and it's brilliant and beautiful. And I did think of it thinking about this, but tell me what other ones you might show and why that one too. I'd just love to hear.
Well, I think the last picture show is just a great movie about a small town, and I love how specific all of those characters are, and I think it's a very funny film, um, and never falls into the trap of condescending to the characters. It's a film set in Texas. These people aren't especially well educated, but you love all of them, and they're rich. And so that's why I was thinking about that. I might have also shown people Fat City, which is a
Oh
great,
yeah,
based on a great novel by Leonard Gardner, which is sort of in the Larry McMurtry mold. Not set in Texas, but
yeah.
otherwise. And then I think it's in California, actually, in a small town in California. The Wild Bunch, I think I was thinking
Oh
about
yeah.
showing.
There's some of that. These movies all have some DNA in Eddington. I guess
Yeah,
before.
but at the same time, what I wasn't referencing any of these films.
Yeah.
What I wanted the movie to feel like was the internet. Like the big influence on this movie is the internet and
And
Twitter.
maybe just the obsession we have with bullshit and misinformation that we are so guided by. The monster
The
seems,
internet, yeah.
yeah, the
Hey,
monster does seem to be that. When you create scenes and drama around characters with phones or screens, like that's an interesting thing. It's not like there isn't a lot of cinema history with that, obviously. I'm curious. I thought you did it really well, sometimes in a very funny way. How did you kind of utilize that? Because it's a big character, and as you said, maybe the author, a co-author in some ways.
well, I think the project was just to foreground the screens, and to not let them become background or blend in, and to, kind of try to just remind the viewer as much as I could, like, this is weird, like, and this is insidious, and
Yes.
this is changing these people. Like, these people are not the same as they would be without this.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah. No, I mean it's sad and it's beautiful. And I have to wrap, but I appreciate you taking the time. I'm grateful for this movie and your work, and you got to team up with Joaquin again. I told him I would tell you that. So
Thank you.